mind why we're doing this show. What is a world of difference, and who would we like to join us on this show to share their stories?
Well, first of all, Jacalyn, I would like to also thank Ian Pelham Turner for making this introduction. I'm delighted. And when you and I started brainstorming about what we want this show to be about, of course, we wanted it to be about disability and amazing stories around disability. But actually, we didn't really want to use the word disability because, we wanted to be more positive about a word that we could use. And so we thought about difference and thinking differently. And then we came up with a world of difference, in that we live in a world of difference, i.e., different people. And we also wanted to interview people that were going to make a world of difference. So we came up with this concept of making a difference in a world of difference. And that is sort of really reaching out to people with inspirational stories from diverse backgrounds that can actually come onto our show and share their stories in a way to inspire others, in a way to kind of show the world that thinking differently has real power and real positivity. And I feel in the world that we're in today, especially post-COVID, that's what we want to do. We want to hear positive stories. We need to hear positive stories from people that are thinking differently in order to inspire others. So I think this show really is all about getting people to come forward. And also, Jacalyn, we want everyday people, don't we? A lot of the time you think of role models as people that are sort of really exceptional, that have come from different backgrounds, that have achieved great things. But actually, we want ordinary people, in inverted commas, everyday people that have achieved some great things. And we'd love to hear from them.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And since this is a new show, I just want to give people an idea of how they can find us after the fact. So if you happen to be watching us live and maybe somebody wants to watch the show after the fact, it can be a little confusing because we're on so many platforms. So what I share with people, and I'm scrolling the banner right now, is you can go over to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, and you can just click subscribe, the little button subscribe, and then you'll see it that there are playlists, and you'll see a playlist after this show for a world of difference. And I usually go and post the shows every Friday night for the week. So do join us over there, and please spread the word to let your friends know how to find us. We also would love for you to engage with us using the comment section on wherever it is that you're watching us from. If you are listening on Business Talk Radio, you're not able to place any comments, but you can always email me at Jacalyn@drjacalyn.com, and we'll answer your questions on the next show. All right. So, Hardeep, I'd love to hear about you and your background and what you hoped this show would bring out for people in the world, because you have a story to share. I have a story to share. We all do. But yet people don't necessarily feel that they can be heard or feel that they have a safe place to be heard. And we're actually giving them that. There's no judgment, and there's just openness, and we're leading with our heart.
I couldn't have said that better myself, Jacalyn. That's absolutely right. And I think no judgment, leading with our heart, and sort of being very open, transparent, and honest is really important. And I think actually we live in a world now where allowing ourselves to be vulnerable is even more important than ever before, especially post-COVID, in a place where mental health is more challenging too. So I thought, Jacalyn and I, we both spoke today about the first show, and what would be nice about the show is if you, as our audience, got to know a little bit more about myself and my story, and actually Jacalyn's story too, because a lot of the time we have Jacalyn interviewing other people. But when I heard your story, Jacalyn, I was inspired by listening to your story. So I think it would be wonderful for people to understand a little bit more about both of us, and then they'll know where we're coming from and the ethos and the ethics behind the show as well. So my story, sort of in some summary, is that I've worked in financial services for most of my life. I had a very illustrious career. I really enjoyed it. We chased money, as we often do, when we're in financial services and the hedge fund world. And then in 2004, I had my first life-changing event. And that was being involved in the tsunami, the Indian Boxing Day tsunami, where just under 300,000 people lost their lives. And for me, that was the first time that I'd ever really experienced a situation where money had no value because it couldn't buy you out of that environment. You know, we were in a hotel, the wave had crashed into the hotel. We were actually running away, literally running for our lives from the wave. I don't know if those of you that are watching have seen the film The Impossible, but if you haven't, then that is the Boxing Day story. So that was a major life-changing event. And I think one of the biggest things for me from that event was actually realizing that I had to save myself over and above other people that were around me that were dying, that were crying out for help. And that was a really difficult thing for me. And actually, you know, it really haunted me for a long time afterwards, is that I walked away and turned my back on people that I knew would have unfortunately lost their lives. So that was a very, very challenging period for me. The second life-changing event for me was the birth of my son Ishan, who you can see in this photo over here at the age of 2 years old. Adorable apple of my eye. He's now 14 years old today. He was born at the last minute with a severe birthing complication, and that created a real lack of oxygen in his brain. And so he's got a condition called cerebral palsy. He is severely disabled. If I were to say all the different things he can't do, the list would be extremely long. But what he has been able to do is inspire me to change my life in a very, very different way. And you know, one of the phrases that I've learned a lot about since Ishan was born, or especially after he was just born, was the sound of silence, where you can be living in a world and things are happening all around you, but actually you're not hearing anything, you're not seeing anything, you're not absorbing anything, because all of a sudden something has happened to you that you can't explain or you can't rationalize. And that was a really, really difficult thing for me, because frankly speaking, before Ishan entered into my life, you know, when he came in, I was 38 years old. Disability hadn't featured really. You know, for me, I didn't really know much about disability in any way, shape, or form. And then one of the things I don't often talk about, but I've started talking about, is my own mental health. Because of course, once he was born, you know, I realized that there were incredible things that I had to change in my life, in a very, very big way. I had expectations, I had thoughts and dreams of what I thought Ishan would be versus what the reality was. And, you know, it became very, very difficult. And, you know, situations like this become a big strain on the marriage too. So for a good few years, I went through my own mental health challenges, and trying to accept what had happened. And again, this is one of those situations where money doesn't allow you to buy or reverse disability. You know, and when you realize that, then money devalues in life. You know, and money, I think, is one of those things, Jacalyn, that when you don't have it, you feel that it's going to answer all your questions and you'll solve all your problems. But then when you do have it, you realize that actually it doesn't. You know, there's more things. And then the third life changing event for me was actually working with my hero from Dragon's Den, called James Caan, who I used to watch on TV in those days. And I got a job with him in 4 days. And one day I'm going to write a book about this, you know, and I think the biggest lessons I learned here about life is, you know, don't don't be afraid to be entrepreneurial in your approach, and don't ever think that anybody is too important that you can't reach out to them and you can't get them. Because, you know, in the world that we live in today, everyone is contactable in some way, shape, or form. And very often, all you have to do is ask your network, ask people around you, and somebody will know somebody that might know that person that you want to get in touch with. And the irony of all ironies, Jacalyn, was that my very own sister knew the lawyer that used to work with James, and she was able to make an introduction into his organization through that channel, which was fantastic. And then I had a meeting on a Thursday evening. I met James on the Friday morning for my first interview. I then had my second interview on the following Tuesday morning. and I got my job on the Tuesday night. And it really was an incredible life-changing event, because one of the things I learned from that event, Jacalyn, was that there are a lot of people in life that you think are going to help you, but then actually they don't. And there are other people in life that you don't think are going to help you, but actually they do. And I think this was an incredible thing, because once I updated my LinkedIn profile and I was talking about having worked or working now with James, all of a sudden, all those people that had ignored me, that hadn't responded to my requests for coffees or teas or things like that, suddenly came back with all these email excuses about why they hadn't responded and how they wanted to get in touch again. So those were three significant life-changing events for me that all led to the formation of the Kaleidoscope Group, which is what we are today. And Kaleidoscope started back in 2014. I always knew I wanted to do something with disability, but I didn't quite know what, until I met my business partner, Shane Bratby. And he was the one that actually helped me to understand that people with disabilities, they really struggle to start their own businesses. And I suddenly thought, Jacalyn, okay, I've got this investment experience. We want to do something in the disability world. Shane has got a lot of disabled entrepreneurs as contacts. Why don't we bring the two together? And that was the birth of Kaleidoscope Investments. And my driving force behind this is quite incredible, isn't it?
This is 10 or 20 shows right here, just so you know. So it's fascinating. Fascinating. Keep going though, please.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, so that's basically how Kaleidoscope Investments was born. So it was, and I became a Christian about 7 years ago as well. One of the reasons actually was that it really helped me to come to terms with what had happened to Ishan. Because for me, I had to really wrestle with that big question about why me for many years, and actually, so I feel very mission led and very driven in terms of what I'm doing. My drivers are Ishan number one and the good Lord number two. And that for me is the right fuel that you need to build a very purpose-led business. And that's really what Kaleidoscope is today. It's a purpose-led business. And the intention really is to help people with disabilities that have great business ideas to start their own businesses, or people with disabilities that want to find employment to find employment. And it's that simple, right? We really just want to help people with disabilities to find purpose. And that's become my mission in life. I'm a change maker in my mindset. I really want to leave a legacy behind for people like Ishan and other people with disabilities that haven't been given the opportunities that they deserve in life. And I think, Jacalyn, my learnings after 7 years and meeting 1,200 plus disabled people is very much that. Their capabilities are incredible. They think differently. They just need people to believe in them. They need the opportunities, and they need their confidence levels built up so that they're able to really engage. So for those that are watching today, you are the kind of people that we want to hear from on this show as we move forward. So I'm gonna stop at that point, Jacalyn, because I have a tendency to talk, and I'd love at this point to perhaps ask you more about your journey, so people can get to hear a little bit more about the lady behind Dr. Jacalyn.
Well, thank you. First of all, we have a comment and from LinkedIn, Natalie Benzia. I hope I said your name right, Natalie. We just met the other day. Wow, this is great. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. And Hardeep, you and I have met before, and I've interviewed you, and your story is just so fascinating. And I seriously meant that that could be 10, 15, 20 shows just in those three things that you share, because they have had such an amazing impact on your life. And for you to come forward and really take the walls down and just be so authentic and so real about your relationship with money and how it changed, and your relationship with people and how it changed, and then the birth of your son, and the dreams and the hopes that you had and how it affected you, your mental health and your marriage. I mean, there's some big issues there that some people would just keep locked away. So really, thank you. My heart goes out to you for sharing all that.
No, thank you, Jacalyn. For me, the funny thing I've learned in life is that it's better to be honest and open and transparent about your journey, because then other people will return that level of respect and be the same with you. And then you can have real conversations rather than superficial. And sometimes it takes people like us to be able to do that, because if we wear our heart on our sleeves and we're honest, then that's the way that I believe that we can really instigate change in this world.
I agree. I agree. Wonderful. Thank you.
So now it's your turn, Jacalyn. Let's hear a little bit about your story.
Okay. Yes. So my story basically is that I grew up really not wanting for anything, have fabulous parents, a great upbringing. And I started having some health issues, and I really didn't want to talk to anyone about them because I always prided myself on looking a certain way and being in shape and working out and trying to do the right things. And all of a sudden, I find myself running to the bathroom, just constantly running to the bathroom. And, who wants to talk about that? And it started getting really bad right after I got engaged to my now ex-husband. And I went to the doctor reluctantly. I went to a gastroenterologist at the University of Pennsylvania. And I'll never forget, he's still my doctor to this day. And this was 1991. And I was sitting in this chair. It was one of those school chairs, at least over here in the States, but it was like a bucket seat chair. It's sort of made out of plastic and has that one wooden arm that comes over. And I remember how uncomfortable I felt in the chair to begin with. And the doctor came over and he was talking to me, and he said that I have this disease called ulcerative colitis, and there's no cure for it, and I'll have it for the rest of my life. And I kept thinking about the chair and this arm, and why was I in this chair? So I just was kind of escaping, I guess, because I didn't want to deal with it. And the next thoughts that came to me were that who would ever love me? Because I have this disease where you have to constantly, it's called the dreaded bathroom disease, but I have this disease where my colon is filled with ulcers. So at that time I had 5 inches of ulcers. And so it really did a number on me. And I didn't really like myself. I was really ashamed of myself, and I didn't get a lot of support in the relationship that I was in. And so what ended up happening was that my self-esteem was always low. So I constantly had to do something different to try to feel better about myself. And so I was always striving for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And what ended up happening was I was getting into relationships with men where they weren't emotionally available. And I would say that's okay, because who would love me on a full-time basis anyway? And then it got so bad. This is 2018, after having had it since 1991, that I was having a hard time doing my job because I was traveling by plane and by train. And a story that really stands out, I was going to New York on the train with my boss, and we're going to this very well-known beauty company, we'll say. And so I was dressed to the nines, and I couldn't eat for 2 days beforehand, because when you have ulcerative colitis, you know where all the bathrooms are. You know exactly how long it's going to take you to get there, what the ceiling light is like, if there's music playing. There's so many things that you know, because you're in a state of complete panic that you have to get there. And so long story short, I remember sitting there on the train with my boss, trying to make, chit chat, thinking, I really don't want to have to use that bathroom in the train because it's not going to be nice. You have a hard time even focusing. And so when we got there, he wanted to go and get something to eat. So of course I can't eat anything. And then there's a lot of questions. Well, can't you take Pepto-Bismol? This doesn't make any sense. And so I started feeling worse and worse and worse. And so basically I stopped doing a lot of social activities because of the embarrassment. And so finally, coming to the end of the story, a friend of mine called and said that he had met the president of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation and that he wanted me to meet this person. So I said, listen, I don't really think it's a great idea to do that, but I'll do it. So I didn't eat for 2 days again. I went to meet him and I said, I'll just let you know, I can't eat anything. I can't drink anything. And I might literally have to run to the bathroom, and you may never see me again here today.
Oh my
And he
God.
said, Jacalyn, it's okay. I understand. I'm a patient, and so is my wife. And I was like, I actually started to cry. I could cry right now because it was the first time I ever felt like somebody got me. They understood. So what happened was I got very involved thanks to this person in the Crohn's Colitis Foundation, and now I'm on the board. I'm a support group facilitator. I'm on the executive committee. They've got events throughout the year. I always have a team, Dr. J's Colitis crew, and so this story is one that I'll leave you with on this topic. I was chosen as the honor hero for the spin event. And the spin event's a bike, spin event
Yeah, yeah.
for 2018. And actually the event is coming up this Saturday, which I'm excited about. And I had to give this speech. And I got up and I said to the people there, I said, you see me, I'm in my spin clothes, but you have my makeup on, I have my hair done. I said, so you might make certain assumptions about me, but what you don't know is I have 16 inches of bleeding ulcers. I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning so I could eat something small so I could get sick, so that I could get a shower, so that I could leave here. And standing here before you now, I'm literally terrified that I might have to run. And so I got through the speech, and then at the end of the event, I went into the restroom and I saw this young woman, and she looked at me, and I could tell she wanted to say something. And so I went over and I said, "Did you enjoy the event?" And she said, "I can't believe your story, because I have the same thing and I feel so sick. And I told my parents I couldn't make it. And when I heard you share your story, you gave me a reason to live."
A reason to live. She said
Mhm.
that. Oh,
Yes.
Jacalyn, that's unbelievable.
And now
Oh,
she has her own team. She does her own fundraising. And that to me, it means everything. So I'm very much about helping other people. And that's a big reason why I do this platform. I actually started it with stories of hope, inspiration, and overcoming adversity, so that people could feel they can come somewhere and share their story and not be judged. And from there, it grew and grew and grew. And so that's what I'm all about, is helping people and letting them know that they're not alone.
Jacalyn, that's incredible. That really is incredible. And I think those stories that you just shared are very, very powerful. I mean, for someone to have said that you saved their lives because of you just being open and honest in the way that you were with that individual, that's incredible. That's incredible. And I think just listening to you, two amazing things come forward. The first is, and this is something that I've learned about people with disabilities behind the scenes, is what goes on behind the scenes, right? When you see what you see on the outside, it's very, very different from what's going on behind the scenes. So I think with you, Jacalyn, that story about you having to have to get up at 3 o'clock to be ready, hours later, so that you don't need to go to the bathroom. That's unbelievable. And I think that there's many, many people that I hope will begin to watch this program more, that will have stories like this about what they have to do and what they have to go through behind the scenes. And actually, this is one of the things that we love to promote, even on this show, which is, come and share your stories and tell us about what you have to go through behind the scenes, because actually that is the most incredible resilience that people can ever think of. So Jacalyn, that's incredible. That's the first thing that comes out loud and clear. And actually the second thing for me is the point that you made about confidence, and in the relationships that you were in and what you had to go through during the time that you did, and sort of almost shying away from that emotional perspective, and sort of trying to keep it more, sort of on the physical side, so you didn't have to get that attached because of what you were going through. And that's unbelievable too. And I think that lack of confidence is one of the biggest things that generally comes along with disability. You lose confidence to go out, to interact with people. I remember when Isham was born, in my case, I had so many friends, Jacalyn, before Isham was born. And after Isham was born, sad to say, some of those friends started to discriminate against me, or I would go to a party and they wouldn't really want to talk to me because they wouldn't know what to say to me. And they wouldn't know what to say to me because they felt awkward. And it wasn't, the irony is that sometimes it's not people's fault, that they feel awkward, because they don't know how to react. but at the same time, that doesn't help our confidence levels, right? So I think that the journey that you would have had to go through to overcome that confidence must have been incredible. I mean, do you have any anecdotes, Jacalyn, for our listeners about how you did overcome some of the confidence, and to do what you're doing today in the way you're doing it is quite remarkable. Is there anything you could share around that?
Well, thank you. So, I just want to clarify one thing. So, in terms of relationships with men, there were many times that I would start to see someone and tell them about my ulcerative colitis, and I would hear, "That's disgusting. I just want to be with a normal person. I don't. This isn't going to work for me. I don't want to take this on." So, as a result of that and time going on in the pandemic, I'm not in a relationship and I don't really care about being in one because I don't have to deal with any of that. So, I've thrown myself totally into helping other people and my work.
Mm,
So, I think what I would share with other people is running a support group and hearing other people's stories, people who have ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, and they actually might have just met someone during the course of their diagnosis, or maybe someone's been with them through the whole thing. There are people who will stand by you. There are people who will not run away, who will not be afraid, who will say, you know what, this is great. I want to walk this journey with you. Let me help you. So if you are with someone who is labeling you or who's judging you, maybe that's not the right relationship. And if there are people who are ignoring you at a party, people who you thought were your friends, maybe they have some learning that they need to do. And, and there's no judgment for them because they're in a different place in their life, but we tend to take it in because we need something, we need strength, we need help, and we have to find it from within. So to your point and to my point, I've had to do a lot of work, and that's yoga, meditation, affirmations. At any point in time, I've probably had 5 coaches, and people people know more than what I know. So I want to I want to when they're ahead of me, they've already turned the corner. I want to learn from them. And I think the other thing that's significant is that I am very involved in volunteering, and it is a
mm,
huge part of my life because
mm,
if I can help just one person so they don't have to go through what I've been going through, it's so sad because I get people contacting me about the support group. Oh, my daughter was just born. She's 6 months old. She's ulcerative colitis. My son's 15. And I think I've got to keep pushing, getting the fundraising, bringing awareness, because maybe that one person, their whole life
mm,
will be changed because we have new treatment options.
mm,
So that's what I think I would say. Don't live in silence. Don't live in shame. Put
mm.
yourself out there. And if you're not getting a good feeling, if your intuition is telling you, you're probably right. Follow your intuition and no judgment. Everybody's on their own journey.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think you touch on something that is really, really personal, right, Jacalyn, which is love. And I think in the world of disability and difference, love is a big issue. It's a big issue. And I think I would love for us to do a show, Jacalyn, just on the subject of love and dating. There are so many people with disabilities that I've encountered over the last 7 years that are not in relationships, that would love to be in relationships, but they just can't find the right person. And unfortunately, if they do, they're judged exactly as you just said. And I think that judgment is a very sad thing, actually, because the irony, I really believe that for those that judge others, they'll get judged even more harshly. And I think in disability and in relationships, it's a real tough one. And I think the other thing that and yet, I want to say one more thing, and yet, when you get to know the fabric of so many of these people with disabilities and who they are, it is unbelievable, their kind of personality, their fabric, the love that they can give, the energy that they have. It's remarkable. And I deal with people that are disabled on a daily basis, or let's say less abled, or people of determination, whatever positive term we wish to use here. And they inspire other people. They inspire others. It's not that we need to inspire them, it's that they actually inspire us. And sometimes you get to a point that I've got to where you don't even see them as people with disabilities. You just see them as their names, whoever they are, and that's it. You don't see the level of disability anymore. You just see them as human beings. And for me, that's an amazing position to be in. It feels incredible that I can say that in a really nice, humble way, that I've got past looking at, whatever I see as physical and just treating them as you would treat anybody else. And I think the other really important point you made, Jacalyn, is support groups. Because I, as a father of a disabled child, that was a single father of a disabled child for a period of time as well, felt very, very lonely. You do feel isolated. You don't feel there are other people you can talk to. And in recent years, I have found that there are WhatsApp groups that are just incredible. Whether it's cerebral palsy, whether it's parents of disabled children. But the one thing I have noticed is that they're very, very fragmented. They're not groups that are sort of widely known. They're sort of very in niche silos. And sometimes that's a good thing, but then sometimes that's a bad thing, because I think there should be more obvious routes for people that do need support when they're going through different types of emotional problems or physical problems, or just being able to talk to people that can understand the backgrounds. And I think the example that you just gave about Crohn's and what that gentleman said to you when you were there, the minute he could relate to what you went through, it was perfect, because all of a sudden it was like, I get it. I understand. It's like me when I talk to another father of a disabled child. They get it. They understand. And, God bless these guys that don't have disabled children and say to me, yes, Hardeep, we really understand what you must be going through. And in your mind, you're thinking, no, you don't understand. But it's not your fault that you don't understand. But, it's just one of those challenging things. So, I think those are incredible points that you've raised there, Jacalyn. Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you. And you as well. I love what you brought up about support groups, and something that I want people to realize. You can go to a support group, whether it's online or whether it's in person, and you don't have to say anything. You don't have to share anything until you are ready. But what you learn is that you thought you were so different. For example, running to the bathroom 40 times a day. Nobody else could possibly be going through this. And then you find out people have been hospitalized for 3 months. People had their whole colon removed and they have a bag. I mean, there's all scenarios, and everyone has something unique about their own experience. But yet at the same time, there's this foundation that everyone can say, okay, I'm in my home. I'm safe with these people. They get me, whether they just met me or I've been in this group for a long time. It's sort of like a big, all those bricks of fear and worry, you put them aside. And for that period of time, you feel like you're home. At least that's how I feel.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And actually, in a way, Jacalyn, I think that's probably how we want people that come onto our show to feel, right? Is that they feel like they're at home, just exactly as you just said. You're in an environment where we're here to listen, we're here to share, we're here to support, but actually it's a platform, and just, I can't actually believe we've been talking for 35 minutes already, Jacalyn. It's shocking. Because it's like, and that's just you and me. That's just us, right? I mean, but it goes to show how much background we've both had. And I think today, in the way that you've shared, is amazing, right? I mean, I always share my story, but with you as somebody that's hosting so much, maybe you don't to the level of transparency you have today. And I think that in itself is very inspirational and motivational for people that are listening, Jacalyn.
Well, thank you. And as you mentioned, the time goes by so fast. I mean, this is such a gift that I have. Imagine I get to talk to people, listen to people. This is what I do for a living, and it's so incredibly rewarding. We do have a comment, which I wouldn't ordinarily share because it's about me, but I think it's important, and I appreciate Natalie leaving this. But she put, "Women to women, thank you for being so brave and sharing so much real emotion and your story. You're an inspiration." Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate that. And you're an inspiration also. She's doing some amazing work, and hopefully we can have her on the show at some point as well.
Fantastic.
We're going to take a quick break. Just a quick break. I want to have us watch a music video that I think ties in very nicely to what we're talking about. And it's called Nothing is wrong with me? And it's by a UK artist. Her name is Sam Sarah. And then we'll be back with more conversation with Hardeep.
You don't see me, yet I hear you every day. Everywhere I go, any time of day. I'm not tall enough, cat calls, but a wife, a sister, friend, someone to. Unless I give you what you want, I know what you're gonna say. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not here for you to do with as you please. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine and I'm free. There ain't nothing wrong with me. I don't need to be fixed. It's not some bipolar thing. And no, I'm not bleeding. Love. I don't need to be fixed. It's not some bipolar thing. I know I'm not bleeding love. You don't hear me, but I see you every day. Listening to my wall instead of what I say. Yeah, I'm old enough to know what I want. A model, lover, mother, I'm your boss. This isn't a negotiation. No. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not here for you to do it as you please. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine and I'm free. There ain't nothing wrong with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to USA Global TV, home of Talking Heads. And hello again to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio out of New York. You're watching a brand new show, A World of Difference, with my co-host and friend, Hardeep Rai. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jacalyn. And I loved that video, by the way. That was really nice. I loved the bit at the very end when she said, Kevin Bacon, get in contact.
I know. And guess what? Maybe he will. Who knows? You just said about people knowing people. You can contact anybody today. So that's really phenomenal. So I want to leave our audience knowing how much we want to share people's stories, how this is a safe place to come. And we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis.
We are indeed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what would be really great, as you said, Jacalyn, is for people to get in touch with us, with the ideas they've got about what they'd like to share. I mean, from my point of view, being someone that's in sort of investment and disability and business, I think stories from entrepreneurs that can talk about their journeys, what they've been through, some of the challenges that they've faced, but actually how they've overcome those challenges. Because I think a lot of us already live in a world where we know what the challenges are, we know what the barriers are, but actually what we're interested is in finding out ways to overcome those barriers so that people can become successful and find their purpose. So we'd love to hear from entrepreneurs, people that have got business ideas, whatever your gender, whatever your background, whatever your age, whatever the ideas, doesn't matter. I would love to hear from people with difference and disabilities that are in employment, that have been successful in employment, that are successful till today in jobs. You know, what's the secret been to your success? If you had an opportunity to talk to other people about your success, what would you tell them? You know, if you were able to imagine that you had a show where you could share your journey behind the scenes and your tips and your tricks, you know, we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear from you. I think if you've had success in love or challenges in love, we'd love to hear from you. How have you overcome those? You know, how do you overcome confidence and sort of, you know, some of the challenges that you face? And I think, Jacalyn, you just shared as well about one of the facial eczema that you experienced in addition to everything else. I mean, if I could ask you, if you didn't mind, Jacalyn, quickly, sort of how you came over that, because you look phenomenal, you know, in the way that you are and you present yourself, and you always have done. But that must have been something that was challenging for you to overcome as well, right?
Definitely. So I've always had a lot of allergies, and I would get, you know, like little spots where it would be itchy and scaly. And then they started coming on my face. And this was also around 2018. And I have a whole library of pictures that I've taken because I'd have to show them to doctors. So I went to 7 different doctors, and they kept saying, you have eczema, there's nothing that you can do. So finally I went to this one at Penn, and he said I had to go on this injectable that I had to inject myself with a needle every 2 weeks with this drug. So long story short, at the time, now this is 2019, I actually was doing a TV show in person. So I had to go into a station and I'd actually interview people, and I'd have literally scales, and maybe next show I'll show the pictures, but my face would be covered in scales, and I'd have to cover them up somehow. So I ended up going on steroids. And anyway, to answer your question, this pandemic basically cleared that up too. So I don't even use the injectables anymore because I moved during the pandemic. My life is completely different, and I don't have any of those outside stresses that I used to have. So it just really says a lot. Plus I changed my diet. I think certain things were trigger foods for that. But another way that helped me overcome it, I have a private Facebook group for women called Women's Health and Wellness. And I posted pictures of myself with the eczema. And I just said, this is what I look like today. How do you like that? And people wrote how brave I was, and they started sharing things that are happening with them that they never told anybody. And so I think, again, putting yourself out there, I'm not the only person who has that situation, and thank goodness, in remission.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And it's really, it's strange what you say about the pandemic, because on the very sad side, many of us have lost family members, friends to this awful, awful illness. But actually, a lot of the things that people have realized and learned and experienced has actually, in my opinion, projected disability to a different level. Because I think the world became disabled, right, Jacalyn, for a period of a
Yes.
year and a half when we were stuck indoors, we couldn't do anything. You had this money, but you couldn't spend it on anything. You couldn't go on any holidays. You couldn't even get any food a lot of the time, or toilet rolls, as we all remember. You know, it was crazy. But actually, but look at the world that we live in today. Suddenly, flexible working, which is something that people have been, campaigning about for 50 years, came into play overnight. Right, we're all working from home. So I think there are some powerful stories from the pandemic, aren't there, that we have to take away from, as long as we remember them. That's the difference. As long as we remember them, and I think that's incredible. But very, very brave what you did with your photos, Jacalyn. And I think that is exactly the kind of examples and the sorts of people and the courage we want to invite on our show. People that would be prepared to do that and talk about sort of the good with the bad. But then that's what makes the real people behind the show.
Exactly right. In fact, I published a book during the pandemic, my first book, and I had pictures of my face in there because I wanted people to see, no, it's not all glamour. It's not all glamorous here, but I was advised not to put them in because it might frighten some people. So I didn't put them in, but as an afterthought, I think I probably should have, because it's real. It's something else. I'm writing my second book. I only bring it up because of the title. It's called Behind the Mask: Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. And during this pandemic, we've all had to wear masks, but many of us wear a mask anyway that people don't see. It's an invisible mask. Maybe it's a mask of fear, a mask of shame, a mask of dread, whatever it is. And I want people to be able to share their stories so they can drop the mask and really focus on inner peace and world peace.
Do I love the way you just said, drop the mask. I think that's incredible. And actually, that's probably what we want this show to be about, right? Sort of, it's letting the mask down and showing the real person behind that mask in a way that inspires other people that watch.
Exactly. Does that mean we're going to have a name change for the show? Just kidding.
maybe. Yeah, we'd have to. I think we definitely got to add that as a strap line, because I love it. I think it's really powerful, really powerful.
I do as well. It's been such a pleasure to be with you today. I'm going to spotlight you, and I did put your contact information into the comments on social media, but for people listening on the radio who can't read the banner or see the comments, what's the best way to get in touch with you, and who should contact you, and how do people reach out about the show? I can answer that one, but go ahead.
Well, I'll let you take the one about reaching out about the show. But if anybody's, well, the priority is for people actually to contact us that would like to be on the show. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love your ideas for the show. Hopefully, Jacalyn and I have shared some ideas already about the kinds of people that we'd love to attract. But if you'd like to get in touch with us, please do, on the details that Jacalyn will probably share. But if any of you would like to get in touch with Kaleidoscope, whether you're a disabled person that's looking to start your own business, or you're a person with disabilities that's looking to find employment, or you need careers advice, or you're a company that's looking to learn more about diversity, anything to do with disability, then of course we'd love to hear from you at Kaleidoscope. And our website is www.thekaleidoscope.group. But today is all about this show, and I'm really excited about what it's going to lead to in the future. And Jacalyn, I'm really grateful to you again for giving us this opportunity to co-host with you, and I'm really looking forward to what comes out over the coming weeks and months.
Thank you. And as we said individually, now collectively, thank you, Ian Pelham Turner, because he was the visionary behind this. I'm going to scroll the way that you can become a guest. It's very easy. You can just email Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com. You can also go to drjacalyn.com, and there's a section called Book Your Session, and you can just look for our show there. But if it's easier just to email me, feel free to do it, whatever works best for you. So, Hardeep, that's a wrap for today. Last words for our show that you'd like to leave people with?
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we look forward to you becoming regular subscribers and really just adding value. And I think when you watch more, and like we heard from Natalie today, and you comment more, then actually that will inspire others. So please tell your friends and family about us and to follow us and get in touch.
Absolutely. And if you do watch this afterwards, because we are on 11 platforms and then 6 more as a podcast, you can put comments in after the fact. So even if you're not watching live, you can do it after we're finished and we will be able to see that. So thank you again for being here. Thank you so much, Hardeep. I really appreciate you and your transparency.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.